I would just hit the
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this 2024 Budget Committee meeting to order. I don't believe we have any regrets. I'm not seeing Councillor Longo or Councillor Lischina yet, so we'll hold off on their status. Okay, Councillor Longo's regrets then. Committee members, do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, there are no consent items or confidential consent items. We have two discussion items, and today is the day that we look forward to hearing from the community and from residents on the proposed budget, on good things, bad things, on wishes and desires and concerns, and all types of that fun stuff. So we have 3 registered delegates, which we'll hear from first. Then I'll poll the audience here and see if there's anyone else who has any information for the committee to hear today. Then we were going to have a follow-up discussion on some requests put in from committee members to staff on the entire budget book after that. So again, if any of the delegates have any questions on either of those two, we're going to hear from the delegates first, then we're going to confine it to table and allow committee members to speak with staff and have a back and forth on some of the stuff specific to the budget. So at this point, I would like to call up Kylie Wilson from the Bronte BIA. Kylie, you've got 10 minutes and welcome, and the committee looks forward to your information. Yeah, there should be a button. No, right on the speaker, I think there's a red button on the little black thing in front of you.
A red button.
Yeah.
That worked?
That's perfect.
Okay,
and if you can just speak into the microphone as best you can so everybody can hear on
Okay,
online.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair O'Meara, Mayor Burton, councillors. My name is Kylie Wilson. As he mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of the Bronte BIA. Before I start my official presentation, I do want to express how delighted I am to see within the summary of requests and staff responses the inclusion of a proposed $35,000 to be used for a BIA-led placemaking exercise for our Bronte Market Square. These funds represent an opportunity to carry out the second phase of our Bronte Forward Community Visioning Strategy, which asked our businesses and residents, what would Bronte look and feel like at its very best? At present, our new public square doesn't quite know what it's meant to be, and a placemaking exercise guided by community voices and values will allow Bronte to collectively decide how we want to bring this space to life. So we are really grateful for your consideration of this request for funding. Secondly, and why I'm here today, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to make this presentation on behalf of all 3 of Oakville's BIAs to speak to item 5.1 regarding municipal grants events for BIAs. For context, each BIA received a grant of $10,000 to lead at least 2 community events in our respective districts. And as we look to 2024, we're unanimous in our ask to increase this grant amount to $20,000 for each BIA. Next slide, please. Thank you. First, I'd like to provide a little context as to why. As BIAs, our objective is to stimulate local business and create a unique local experience. And events are a tool that help us achieve this objective. So I just want to point out 3 reasons why this is the case. Firstly, events improve neighborhoods and the well-being of individuals by creating a sense of belonging and community pride. So one example of this was at the recent 4th annual Kerfest Kids, which was held this past September 10th. This is an event dedicated to creating a safe and happy experience for young children, teens, and their families. Secondly, events celebrate the physical, the cultural, and the social identities that define a place and support its evolution. So one example of this is in Bronte, which hosted its first ever Bronte Block Party this past September 9th. With the amazing support of the town, we closed a section of Bronte Road. We had over 4,500 visitors make memories and connect to a space that will soon undergo a redevelopment transformation. And thirdly, events support the local economy by creating a space for the meaningful engagement of small businesses and community partners. So on Saturdays, another example of this is this past June and July, our downtown Oakville BIA hosted its annual Summer Sweat program. This was an outdoor fitness series that put its local studios and fitness experts front and center in Town Square. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. There is an error on this slide, but I will get to that in a second. I just wanted to point out that events, like everything else today, have been hit by rising costs. So expenses like liability insurance and equipment rentals have seen significant increases. But outside of that, I wanted to share some of the less visible expenses, just so you can see how quickly these event costs add up. So I'm going to take our recent Bronte Block Party as an example and just show you some of the expenses we incurred as a result of hosting an event in a public space. So first up, we needed to pay $5,723 for our paid duty officers. Our emergency medical services came in at $800. Our town permit and event fees, which would have included hydro, garbage disposal, our stage, our picnic tables, $4,202. Our road allowance permit was $704, and one expense that's not listed here was the road closure fees coming in at approximately $3,800. So the total here is just over $15,000, and that's the correction I'd like to make up there, which is one example that hopefully demonstrates how a grant coming from our municipality will increase our capacity to manage these heightened event expenses when we host events in public spaces. Next slide, please. I'm going to conclude by talking about 3 reasons why I think the town should strongly consider our request to increase municipal grants for events for BIAs to $20,000. So firstly, additional funding will increase our capacity to support the town of Oakville in achieving your strategic vision to be a vibrant and livable community for all. So local residents and visitors to Oakville, I think it's important to note that they don't necessarily distinguish or pay much attention to the event organizer. BIA events, while they're geographically distinct, they do have a significant impact on shaping and reinforcing the overall identity of our town. They also create a sense of pride that Oakville residents feel when they think about their close-knit neighborhoods. Secondly, BIA events support achieving the livability element. They create an environment where people of all ages and abilities have a sense of home and belonging because our events are free, they're inclusive, and they're accessible. And thirdly, we move the needle on achieving vibrancy. We build communities that are active and full of life, and each of our districts aims to be an event destination across every season. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. So Chair O'Meara, Mayor Burton, and councillors, my ask is that you increase the municipal grants for BIAs to $20,000 each in 2024, so all 3 BIAs can continue to work in partnership with the town to advance your strategic priorities, while simultaneously allowing each of our neighborhoods to be showcased as thriving, vibrant commercial districts. So I want to thank you very much for the platform to speak this morning and for your time. And that's it from me, unless you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wilson. That's great. You have solicited a question from Councillor Chisholm. Councillor Chisholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question is, you're asking for an increase. Maybe this is a question for staff. Was not the BIA's special event fund reduced at one time? Was that 20,000? And all we're asking is to reinstate that amount. I just need clarification from staff on that.
I'm sure, Kylie, you might not know the answer to that.
I actually don't know. Do either of you know?
Commissioner, maybe you can help, or...
No, it's always been at my apologies, through you, Mr. Chair. It's always been 10,000.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Hazletiel.
Thank you very much for that presentation and for speaking on behalf of all the BIAs. So well done. My question is for staff. From an inflationary perspective, when was that $10,000 set? Because we routinely see our fees go up based on inflation. And so I'd like to understand when that 10,000 was actually set.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it was around 2014 or 15 when we brought the first special events strategy forward, and we recommended that each BIA get 10,000. So it's been quite a bit of time.
So thank you, Commissioner. So I think that that's compelling evidence enough that we experience inflation. We pass those inflationary costs on, and it's time that we stepped up to our partners and had the same principle apply.
Thank you. Councillor Adams?
Thanks very much. I wondered if our staff could remind us what our event strategy program is for the other parts of town. For major events.
Through you, Mr. Chair, are you looking at other areas that we subsidize, like other business areas, Councillor?
Yeah, well, for example, there are events that are held in all the other wards that generally don't receive this kind of funding. And I understood that we were going to contemplate supporting some of those other events as well. And I wonder if you could help us understand how this relates to that.
Through you, Chair O'Meara, the only other program we have at this time for special events is our fee waiver program, and I believe it's about $21,000 annually, where we'll reduce the fee of the permits for if groups are eligible based on their organization status.
And so if there was a ask for additional funding to support events across town in the other wards as well, and if those funds ended up going to the BIAs to support events in the downtowns for those 3 wards, could we provide that kind of funding to the other wards as well?
Through you, Chair O'Meara, we are working on our event strategy that would be presented as part of the 2025 budget. I don't believe we utilize all of the funds in our fee waiver program, so I don't think there's a need at this point to increase that, but it will be considered as part of the special event strategy update.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you very much, Kylie. We appreciate your time. Next, we have Doug Sams, our Kerr Village BIA. Mr. Sams, thank you so much for joining us.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and Mayor Burton, councilors, welcome and happy Halloween. I wish I would have worn my costume. I didn't come prepared. I can address the event funding for BIAs a little bit. It was 30,000 total, and in a year where maybe 2 of the 3 BIAs did events and requested funding, at times I did receive a couple times 15,000. In 2021, when we're still in the pandemic mode and we had our big Christmas tree lighting, we received some additional funding from the province. We received because we received 20,000 because not all of the 30 was being used. So it's normally been 10, but I always thought that because of the times, the inflationary, that 20,000 would be a more appropriate figure. When you figure in inflation and the cost of security, having a safe event, and it kind of works both ways. We appreciate the support from the town. We are a sponsor of the Santa Claus Parade, and I look forward to that event, and I always like to volunteer and help where I can as a marshal. So I tell you, it's been a good relationship with the town when it's come to events, and we're not, if we didn't need, when the funding first started, it was probably adequate. Now I think it needs to be updated a little bit. The benefits and impact of doing events. Number one, you do bring people to your area. Attendance is a factor. Like when we did the 2021 Christmas tree lighting over a day and a half, we had 4,000 on Friday night. We had 7,000 on Saturday. And the reason I know is we had to ticket it, for a contact list in case we had a breakout, which knock on wood, we didn't. So I started doing that even if the event was free, going through Eventbrite, just so I could track attendance, because that's an important figure. So what happens is it increases the foot traffic in the area. They do visit merchants, not just within the park, but also on the street. At our 2022 Kerr Fest, we had 17 merchants, Kerr Village merchants in the Westwood Park. We had 11 of them as market vendors, and the other 6 were food vendors. So the benefits are employment opportunities for usually those restaurants, those businesses have to hire additional staff. We provide an employment opportunity for vendors, for other people, for the musicians. We get a lot of musicians from around the Oakville area. They're all Canadian musicians. A lot of them are from Ontario, some are from out of the province, but we're providing not only employment opportunity, but also economic development opportunity to our area. In addition, we have to put up a number of our performers at local hotels. It doesn't just impact our BIA, it also impacts other areas of Oakville where they go out and explore the opportunity. We partner with Visit Oakville. We put on our event website where to go, where to eat, where to sleep, sightseeing. So and we probably, you know, there's an impact of a couple $2 million there when we do a 2 or 3 or even a 4-day event. So it does increase spending on the street. It increases awareness, and not only the Kerr Village BIA, but also Oakville. Our events have been nominated for 3 awards, and we've won 2 of them. A survey that we did, 80% of the people that attend our events, if they were from outside the area, said they would return to the Kerr Village area and Oakville. So we advertise, promote the area. I think our events that all the BIAs do and anybody else does adds a lot of value to their area, to Oakville. So I think it's a win-win, and it does add to the economic development and vitality and viability of our areas. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation. I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you very much, Doug. It was great, and we appreciate that information. We have some questions here. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's not more of a question, but more of a statement with respect to Doug's presentation, which Doug was well informed and very comprehensive. I do like the idea that the economic development side and so forth, but I guess looking in my world of background is that when we're running events that are not run by the town by staff directly, and we have a lot of volunteers and so forth, the costs are reduced exponentially with respect to the overall cost of an event. Having said that, the events are very important. I know we're doing a special event strategy, it's coming forward, but the return on investment of what we're asking for and what the benefits, financial benefits and economic benefits far exceed what is being put into the budget for this. So I'm supporting the increase to $20,000 with respect to the BIAs on the special event funding because they run events on behalf of the town. Yes, it's for the BIAs, but it is a community event, and they're well known, they're well established, and we need to support that all the time because those volunteers and people are involved help our communities become strong and healthy. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ray. And by the way, we just had our Kerrfest kids, and the group of volunteers I had, and the majority of them were high school age. They were the best group I've ever had working together as a team. Maybe I've had good individuals, but these young people volunteered, they stayed the whole day, they worked together. It was impressive. So thank you for mentioning that, Councillor.
Thank you so much. Councillor Hazlet-Thiel.
Doug, thanks for coming out. Can you just refresh my memory? My understanding is that because of budget limitations, you chose Kids Kerr Fest, but did not do the famous Kerr event that all of Oakville, it's not ward-specific, all of Oakville enjoyed. And so would this money potentially, I'm not going to make you commit to it publicly, but is that the kind of thing that could be returned if you had some additional funds?
Quite possibly. One of the factors that played into that decision, Curfest Kids is a part of Curfest, and we felt it prudent because of the year before. It was like throwing cold water in your face, the increase. Suppliers' costs went up 50%. Performers wanted more money. We did not anticipate. We had signed the contract and got hit with all these fees tagged on, from fuel surcharges to this fee to that fee. And part of it was because, our budgets, we've kept our budget. We don't like to go over 3%. I think most BIAs, as you see, keep it between 2% and 3%. We did not want to do that to our merchants. And when the cost of inflation was up 8% and then it went to 11%, our budget doesn't keep up with inflation. It really doesn't. We have to still provide other things for our members. And so we thought the prudent decision was to go ahead and have Curfest Kids, which we had 4,000 people at. But the other part with the Curfest, that's a big, to run that event, we really have to look at more revenue streams and monetize it a little bit better. And we're looking at strategies on how to do that. Whether we bring it back for a day, 2 days, I don't know. We'll have to see. And we'll have to see what other grants we can get too. Thank you.
Again, not asking you to commit to it, but it's an example of something the community didn't get to experience as a result of funds.
Sure.
So
and I don't know if you know, but Sound and Music, they had to borrow $200,000 last year from the town. They went over their budget the year before, like the same year we did 2022 Curfest. So they incurred a lot of additional costs that they were not anticipating. Other events our size they've decided not to have them. They've been discontinued. So we're looking at ways how we can move forward. It's a challenge. And we can use the money.
Thank you so much, Councillor. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I couldn't agree more, and again, thank you for volunteering to be a marshal for the Santa Claus Parade. Look forward to seeing you. Just a quick question, and I guess it sort of goes on what Councillor Haslett-Deal said. In order to provide a larger or broader event, the costs escalate, obviously, whether it's the paid duty officers, road closures, all the things that I don't think people realize have to take place. So, in other words, the money we're putting in or provide to offset some of those costs, enable you to provide such a good product is basically what we're looking at, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And yeah, because you want to have a safe event. So in addition to your pay duties, you've got to have security, and you've got to have St. John Ambulance.
Yep.
And you've got to have a road closure. We closed down Bond Street because of the safety of people loading in on the stage, which the back of the stage faces Bond Street. And fencing costs, that went double. I know. And just everything just starts to add up, and generators and lights, and so any additional funding, and it probably costs, I figure, when you do Curfest, depending on how many nights, it's about $90,000 to $100,000 a day to run it.
I think it's admirable the way the three BIAs work together so collectively. And I look forward to the day in North Oakville for a BIA to get constructed so that they can join the fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Noel.
Thank you. I just wanted a moment to, actually, I'm going to declare pecuniary interest in this matter. I didn't think I was going to have to, but it seems that this is a bit of a freight train. So I want to declare pecuniary interest in whatever this matter. I don't think that's got an agenda item. It says delegation, because I am the CEO of a corporation that occupies space in the Kerr BIA district, and as such, I'm a member. and would benefit from the outcome of this decision.
Well, no problem. We're not making any decisions today, so you're safe. But
It's an abundance of caution.
I get that for sure. Thank you so much. Councillor Xi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. We all understand those three BIAs represent not only the three wards, but also represent the Oakville spirit or attract a lot of residents, even from north to everybody to the BIAs. So, but for my point, I'm continuing with the idea about Councillor Adams say, so when we think about this increase the budget for the BIA or the event, but it's for our ward, we don't have the BIA yet, but we still have increased a lot of requests from community events as well. Now, all the events is only relying on councillors sponsor or the residents or business sponsor can make that happen. So I'm asking the staff if we can think about not only the special event strategy, it's too late in 2025. So we need some actions, we need some similar or temporary solution or options in next new years to consider about the similar with the BIAs. This is something I'm asking, we can think about this. So we need the sponsor as well to do our community event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much, Mr. Sams, for your
Thank you.
presentation. That was fantastic.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Thank you, too. So our next and last delegate before we poll the audience is Hart Jansen from Hazen, and I believe Hart is joining us online. There he is. Hart, thank you for joining us, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Chair O'Meara and councillors, for this opportunity for Hazen, that is Halton Action for Climate Emergency Now, to provide input. The bulk of our comments are included in an email we submitted to the budget@oakville.ca address at 8:01 this morning. We would like to provide input focused on climate action. We are at 4.5 years under a declared climate emergency, with very little progress made against our agreed community energy strategy, and no indication that carbon emissions are decreasing. Given the loud warning bells being rung by Mother Nature, which threaten our health and financial well-being, this deserves our most serious attention. We expend substantial resources to improve the quality of life for our residents through amenities such as community centers and free public transit. Should we not also devote substantial resources to the health and well-being of our residents through mitigation of climate change? We are currently years behind on most major projects defined in the community energy strategy, primarily due to the lack of a well-functioning future energy Oakville Center. To address these shortfalls, we agree with the recommendations in the letter submitted by the Coronation Park Residents Association, dated August 11th, including the creation of a standalone climate change and environment department with an appropriate number of staff who are accredited in areas such as environmental engineering, sustainable development, etc. 4 additional recommendations from Hazen are: 1, that we initiate a substantial active publicity campaign with hard dollars spent on social media and also on those few remaining local journalists to educate our citizens on the benefits of reduced emissions and the solutions available. We can encourage people to take specific actions, such as installing a heat pump or implementing a retrofit, with information resources and coaching to back it up. 2, to inspire homeowners and the private sector that provides relevant services, initiate a home retrofit pilot for 100 homes with $500,000 or more in Oakville funding, hopefully leveraged with FCM and other monies, which would save residents money and save the environment by retrofitting their homes with a strong focus on energy efficiency and financial savings. To have the most effective retrofit pilot in the GTA, keep it simple. Focus only on insulation, air tightness, and heat pumps for both air and water heating. 3, this retrofit pilot should be accompanied by a bylaw to reduce the financial barrier for a retrofit. This bylaw is already enabled by provincial legislation to allow third-party financing via a property lien. This would enable payment of the loan through property taxes, and the lien remains with the property. So when a house is sold, the new owner enjoys the benefits and continues the payments, most or all of which would be covered by energy savings. Finally, begin work on an energy rating system that would provide homeowners with information about the energy efficiency of any property they might consider purchasing. This action was one of many scheduled in the community energy strategy to be completed in 2023 or before. I encourage residents to check out the home energy retrofits page on the Town of Oakville website, plus our HACEN website, www.hacen.info, for more information on heat pumps, rebates, etc. Now, we do have some questions about the energy coach that has been proposed as part of the 2024 budget. Is the primary mission of this coach to provide advice to single-family homeowners on how to most effectively improve energy efficiency and reduce emissions? Or are there other additional objectives? Perhaps one of the key tasks of this energy coach could be to support homeowners who would enroll in the Oakville retrofit program. As an aside, this role seems like one that could benefit from some kind of AI supplementation or some other semi-automation, as most of the questions and answers will be very similar. It could also potentially be supplemented with university-level interns. As this position is apparently being funded through development fees, was there previously a positive cash flow from these fees? Can development fees support additional staff to enable climate action? Another factor in the climate action landscape is a pending initiative at Halton Region for a community climate action plan. Given that the introduction of this initiative has been delayed at least until Q1 of 2024 due to lack of consensus, and given that there is no predictable outcome, and given the macro level uncertainty regarding two-tier government in Halton, we strongly urge Oakville Council to follow the lead of Halton Hills and Burlington in initiating meaningful climate action programs at the municipal level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hart, for the delegation. I don't see any questions. Oh, there we go. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Through you, Chair O'Meara. My question is for staff. I'd just like them to answer some of Hart's questions around the energy coach, and in particular, some of the opportunities he suggested around the ability to leverage AI for some standardized answers, or opportunities to educate them on the effectiveness.
Thank you for that question. I'd be happy to answer that. I was actually quite interested in the comments that were made. I think that accurately describes the vision of what we're hoping to achieve with the Energy Coach. It's a new concept that we're experimenting with in the town of Oakville. It's actually funded by building permit fees, and we're trying to tie it into what's happening with the Ontario Building Code. So the idea is we would be working with homeowners to try to help them understand the opportunities and challenges that come along with these energy upgrades. I think quite often right now the applicants are being solicited by vendors who are trying to sell them a product, and it becomes very confusing for them to understand whether this is a good investment in their time and energy. So what we're hoping to do is be a neutral party and do our own investigation on what's being suggested to them and offer them our thoughts and ideas. We'd also like to collect that information to better understand the costs of these improvements and the actual return on investment. So rather than just hearing a report, we could actually use Oakville facts and data to understand whether this is a good investment and for us to pursue investment opportunities or rather incentive opportunities.
So thank you for that. And the initiative has obviously got some people quite interested. Is there a way for you to report back on, I mean, even mid-year on how that is progressing?
Absolutely. Again, we're still working with the details, but we can absolutely include a reporting back to council on the success of the program.
And one other follow-up from Hart's comments was, is there flexibility for additional staffing that could be supported through the program? So in other words, would the fees allow an additional headcount if it seemed to be productive and making a difference?
We can investigate that. At this time, we don't know what the actual cost would be, but we would try to leverage as many opportunities as we can. Enbridge, the universities, the colleges, there are a lot of resources that we would be trying to leverage to maximize the efficiency of this program.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Jansen, for your presentation today. So we have no further registered delegates, but at this time I'd ask if there's anybody here to delegate to the committee. Going once, going twice. Sold. Well, thank you very much. There is another opportunity tomorrow evening at 6:30 as well for any delegate who can't make it during the day to come and speak to the committee and share your views and thoughts on that. So it is not, and then there will be another opportunity once the mayor takes the budget over to speak to it again in November. So there's still ample opportunity to participate and to get your thoughts and comments to the committee and to the mayor himself on the budget. So at this point, I think what we're going to do is we're going to move on to 5.2 is the budget committee requests. Yep, sorry. Oh, a motion. Okay, sorry, I'm looking for a motion to receive. Councillor Dudek, any objections? Seeing none, thank you so much. So item 5.2 is the budget committee requests, and as you know, last budget meeting we asked you to send in any questions you may or may not have on the budget in its entirety, and staff would put those responses together in a package which you received the other day. So I'm not silly enough to think that more questions aren't going to arise, possibly out of questions today and responses that you hear. Staff are going to do their best, but I do want to just let committee members know that in order to present this budget on Thursday to the mayor, it might not be feasible for staff to do any deep dives on stuff that they might hear today. So I just want to let staff, council members know that we'll try their best to do and get as many answers for you now. And the last part before we get into here is so Thursday is when we're going to have any changes or additions or recommendations brought forward to include in our recommendations to the mayor. So the sooner you can get those, if you think you have some recommendations, we've heard some delegates today, if you can get those as soon as possible to staff in writing so that they've got something that we can work off of on the second, that would be most helpful to staff and to your committee members here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, who's going to have a few opening words, and then we'll open it up to committee members.
Thank you, Chair O'Meara. Just a couple of things to share with the committee as it relates to item 5.2 on your agenda this morning. So first of all, as you can see in the staff report, there were a fair number of questions that came in, and we've done our best to provide a response to all of them. Some of the questions that were asked were quite similar, so we've grouped them together in the report. Appendix A actually contains a list of all the questions that we received, and if the answer was relatively straightforward, we just include it right away in Appendix A. But if the answer took a little bit more to answer, needed more information or context, that's where we've included a separate appendix for you to take a look at with that additional information. Before I turn it back to you, Chair O'Meara, I do want to say thanks to our staff team here for pulling together all of these answers in a timely manner. They put a lot of effort in, and most of them, if not all of them, are here this morning to answer any follow-up questions that you may have. We don't actually have any formal presentations for you, but we are here for those questions. So that's all I had to say, Councillor O'Meara, so I'll turn it back to you.
That's great. Thank you so much. So at this point, I'd open it up to any committee members who have any questions of staff on the responses you received or on anything in general. Councillor Adams, you're up to bat. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Two things. So based on the discussion that we had about event funding, I wondered if staff could draft an amendment to provide $20,000 in funding per ward to be used either through support to BIAs or other event support within each ward. And then second, there were a couple of capital items that I spoke with Jane about briefly, and I wondered if I could get a short meeting with Jane to talk about those capital items. I don't want to bore the rest of council with it, but.
Absolutely, Councillor Adams. I'll get in touch with you right away. I think they're relative to some parks and open space questions.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Knoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions. Sorry, I closed my chart here. I've lost it. Okay, on item 17, which is the change in title of project. This is the station number 4 expansion issue. The resolution to my question was the title of the project has been changed to station number 4 renovation and expansion from station number 4 expansion. My request was to change it from renovation and expansion to replacement, because that had been what we've been talking about for the last, I don't know, 15 years. That the station would be replaced, and that was the clarity that we were seeking. And I think I have my colleagues' support from Ward 5 on this issue. That so either we like it changed to replacement to actually capture what the ultimate project is, or clarification on what the intentions of the fire service is with respect to this this project.
Through you, Chair O'Meara, the reason we changed the title to the way we have it is the project does have a significant expansion to the facility, and it is funded 60% from development charges. So we have to be very careful that we're not saying this is just a renovation, because it is an expansion of the facility, which will be funded from development charges, which is a growth component.
Okay. Again, for clarity, our understanding for over a decade is that the building was to be replaced. It was a temporary building when it was first built. It was inferior 20 years ago, and our understanding has been all along that the building was to be replaced. So has that changed at some point? Because it used to be referred to as replacement. I understand that there may be funds available for renovation expansion, but that's something that we weren't aware of, and I don't think we've ever had that conversation at budget before.
Through you, Chair O'Meara, I don't believe the project scope has changed at all. We've just tried to keep the wording consistent with what's included in our development charge background study. It is, I think, and maybe Kendall can speak to it, the project is as it is. It does include an expansion. So when it's replaced, it will be larger than what the original facility was, okay. And therefore it's attracting development charges because it's supporting the growth in the community.
Okay. So notwithstanding the fact that it's referred to as expansion, is still the intention is that expansion would be replacement of the facility on the property?
That's correct.
So it's a nomenclature issue here. Okay. Second issue is with respect to 22, which is Library Community Newspaper Digitation Project. Mr. Chair, can you help me understand how we're going to move forward on our specific requests? Should we be moving motions today? Are we simply asking questions for clarification today?
Yeah, so the intent is just to ask some questions today, and then to work with staff from now until hopefully the first to just get the wording so that they can present us with the recommendations that would be brought forward from committee members. Okay, so in that case, then the first thing on 22 I'd like to do is I just want to clarify the report. The report's great, and there's some good options there. Obviously, I'm very supportive of moving forward with this, and I think that you're going to hear from Councillor Chisholm that my colleague on the library board is too. But I am concerned that there may be a misunderstanding in the way that this report was presented. It refers to the fact that library staff did not support moving forward, and I don't think that was the case. I do recall that this was presented to the board as being that budget staff were not moving this forward in
the budget process. So the library staff are prepared to work with this project, albeit in probably the modified format. That's one of the suggestions being made, where it be spread out over more time, and maybe just the digitization would happen and the database would happen at a future time. But I just want clarification on that, because I think that that's a big input on how this is read. Because if the budget committee and members of the budget committee are proposing something that the staff don't want and can't do, then that becomes a different issue than something that the staff are prepared to do if they have the funds. So if I could get clarification on that as we go forward, please.
CAO.
Through you, Mr. Chair. You're quite right. Library staff would very much like to see the project happen. But they were given from the mayor's direction, they were given a budget envelope to stay within. And so when they looked at that budget envelope, this was one that fell outside of that. So it's not that they're not supportive of the project, it was just within that budget envelope, their ability to get it done. And so the options that you see in front of you in that report are alternatives in order to accomplish the same objective, either in a phased way, which is, I think, what we're recommending, to not spend the funds today, but scope out the project, understand the full cost of it, so that we can then implement, and certainly recognize if there's any risk to any of the documents, we take care of that immediately, if there is that even available. That was the option that we're recommending to you for this particular year. And then look at bringing it forward through the 2025 budget in either one of the other two options that are shown in the report.
Thank you for that. But I just want to be clear, though, that if words matter, and I'm just concerned that this does say the Oakville staff had not recommended proceeding with this project in 2024. So just to be very clear, this Oakville staff, perhaps they didn't recommend using their envelope of funding, but they are, because it's very clear given the extensive workload plan. So it's a financial issue here, not an actual ability to do issue.
So if Tara is here, she can certainly speak to that, but I understood it was both really a workload issue with the extent of programs that they have, as well as a financial.
Okay.
So Tara is actually online.
Through you, Chair O'Meara. Yes, I mean, library staff can accomplish this in 2024. It would be our preference to scope it out, recognizing the financial impacts and the financial stress that the capital program is under, to scope it out in 2024 and initiate in 2025. But to the same degree, we do have capacity to take that on in 2024 if needed.
Okay, so for 100% clarity, there is capacity to take it on in some fashion in 2024 should the funding be available, whether that's simply initiating the scans or whatever the case is. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, through you, Chair O'Meara, that would be correct.
Okay, thank you. The real importance, and I want to give everybody a chance to ruminate on this between now and the next time that we meet, the reason why Councillor Chisholm, myself, and in fact our entire library board are asking that this matter be reconsidered is that newsprint is a fleeting product, and it can, I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but these are rather old documents as it is. And this is it was almost a finding buried treasure when Metroland contacted us. I think this is probably 10, 12 years ago, and said, hey, we are downsizing. Little did we know what the future held, but we are downsizing our facilities here in Oakville, and we'd like you to pick up all these papers, or we're going to throw them out. And there were literally piles that start from, I think, World War II era right through to fairly recent to that downsizing. They contain the collective history of our community. They talk about things like the war effort, and they talk about issues like the amalgamation of Trafalgar and Oakville, the deincorporation of Bronte. There's a number of significant issues that happened in that period, and they literally tell the history of our community. And we're really worried that we've already been waiting, I believe it's over a decade now, to do something about this. And the longer we wait to even get started, the bigger the chance and the larger the risk is to the collection actually getting to the point where it's no longer even viable to hold. So while I'm perfectly fine with discussing the different options that are available, I'd be very concerned about putting it off another year, because then next year we're going to hear about putting it off another year, and then eventually we're going to be trying to scan dust. And if you understand, if you've ever done any scanning of old documents, you understand how precarious that can be. So the board is very concerned that we're going to lose this incredible asset, like I said, that tells the history of our community. And a lot of the folks that were around that made that history are no longer with us, and they're leaving us on a regular basis. So that the verbal history is even leaving us. Even the newspapers that reported that history are all gone. So when this comes forward, I would appreciate if council members could consider not just the finances here, but the historical and the social science aspects of what we're trying to accomplish as well.
Thank you, Councillor. You've given a rousing a rousing speech, which again you might have to reiterate on the second when you bring something forward. But we appreciate that, and I'm sure staff will work with you on whatever recommendation you'd like to bring forward there. Councillor Chisholm, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess how do I follow that with Councillor Noel's comments, and he's bang right on with respect to, and I won't take up the Budget Committee's time or Council's time on this, but I think it's very clear, and he articulated that where I'm coming from is the high risk, the risk mitigation with respect to print material. The longer we wait, as he indicated, it's going to be destroyed or it's going to disappear. And it would be behoove us for us as council to make sure that is still relevant and it's at the top of the agenda with respect to getting this digitized. I'm happy on the conversation. I hope that council takes this under consideration. I would like to see this happen now, not later. As Councillor Noel indicated, it's been 10 years. I've only been on the board for about a year, but understanding the history of Oakville and living in Oakville all my life and know all the history that has happened since I was born way back in the 50s. There's been a lot, and we don't want to lose that. And it's really important to for Oakville to have that resource available to the public when the time comes. So I'll leave it as that. Since I do have the floor, the second comment I have was on Appendix F, and I do apologize to council. My comprehension of this appendix, reading this, I really don't understand what it means. I really like to have some clarity on Appendix F with respect to more details on the 4 staff request to create initiatives and business support team. I've seen a lot of literary information in here, but I can't make head nor tail of it. So maybe it's just my lack of understanding and knowledge, but I'd like to have more clarity on that as time if we move on before I would support this. Thank you.
No problem, Councillor Chisholm. We will endeavor to get you that right now.
Through you, Chair. So this is about the Initiatives and Business Support Team, which is a team that's being put together to really focus on 2 things. One is to give 2 commissions, Community Services and Corporate Services, the capacity to implement the change and the improvements that we're all looking for in terms of generating efficiencies. So this is specific department support to look at their processes, their internal practices, the rules that they have, and give them the capacity to do it because their efforts are all focused on frontline or serving the internal client, depending on the commission. So it's allowing them that help to actually make the change. So these positions are very much doers. They're the process experts. They're the ones coming in to ask the questions. This is the difficult work that I had talked about to challenge the status quo. The other piece of the responsibility is on the corporate initiatives. So as we look to further our digital plan, our diversity and inclusion objectives, our workforce planning, there is a lot of thinking work that comes with this that we are relying on directors and managers to do, but who's actually helping them pull it together and looking at it from across the commission of what the needs are and what the priorities are. So it's very much that doing. We talk a lot about the journey on the digital plan. but it's documenting what we're doing, prioritizing, figuring out the sequence of actions and how it all fits together. That's the capacity that this unit will support the commissions in doing.
So to say, sorry, through Mr. Chair, so what we're saying, this is more of, how do I explain this to you, is basically these are support staff to bring the existing directors and staff together to avoid these silos of information. Is that to bring, are they bringing them together at the table for processes, for efficiencies, where they kind of oversight the operations and saying these are the recommendations you need to do or required to do as a department?
If I could just assist through you, Councillor O'Meara, these positions we see as absolutely critical for us to deliver on the efficiencies that this council is looking for. We have, I think, through the budget presentation, indicated that we have, I think Jonathan's word, we're wrung our towel dry. We've looked at all that low-hanging fruit in order to reduce costs in our budget, and in order to get further efficiencies out of it, we need to look at our processes, the way we do things, which is a much more in-depth, as Julie has said, difficult thing to do. So these positions are positions that will do that work. It'll help support the Community Services Commission as well as corporate services to get at their programs and services in order to find those efficiencies. So we cannot do that work off the corner of our desks and actually be successful because the rest of staff is busy delivering programs for this community. And so this is the support function that's critical to deliver on the efficiencies. We also need to be able to look farther ahead, and these are the other two positions in strategy, policy, and communication, to look ahead on what are those challenges that we need to do to identify those further work that we need to do through each of the commissions, right down to the department level. So we have done a lot of work at a corporate and at a commission level. These positions enable us to drive that. The climate change, it allows us to drive it and embed it into the organization and assist those departments in achieving climate change, the IDEA program, finding efficiencies so we can be successful in those areas. Otherwise, we are a corporation that delivers services and have a very limited ability to look forward strategically on where you want to go. In essence, we've become reactionary, and I don't think that's a position that council wants staff to be in.
Thank you, Jane. That clarifies it. So I would assume there'll be KPIs associated to the performance on this as we move forward. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. In fact, KPIs is one of the specific things that we want to drive in the next couple of years in order to actually measure the work we're doing. And you'll see that in the budget in terms of a lot of the data management pieces that we're building, because we need that data in order to inform those KPIs and develop those targets going forward. So it's very much part of the way we need to move forward as a corporation.
No, that clarifies it for me. Thank you. What your comments, I wish you were in the report. It would be straightforward for me. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Chair. Number 54, the application, what is the application to permit time? Just wanted to shout out, the transition to digital documents allows permit review to be conducted concurrently. From the look of the actuals there, it looks like that was a wise decision to start that journey. So just wanted to shout out on that one. Number 27, what is the service level standard for returning calls or emails? Develop Engineering strives to meet the customer service standards. I'd appreciate hearing back at the next meeting what those standards are. It wasn't clear. I know we're trying to strive and it takes time, but I'd appreciate getting what those actual standards are in terms of days or weeks or whatever that is. Number 50. Oh.
Through you, Chair O'Meara, I can try to answer that one right now for you, Councillor Giddings. I believe that's the customer service standard procedure. That is one of our standard procedures here at the town, which I believe is available on our website. So we can send you the link after the meeting just to save us from reporting back, if that's okay.
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Number 56, what the work on the OTCC garage. The OTCC opened up almost exactly 3 years ago, and it's an incredible facility with lots of great feedback. Just curious about the $742,000. Is that deterioration that's happened over the past 3 years, or is that regular maintenance?
Kendall is here to answer that question.
Thanks. Through you, Chair O'Meara. That is regular maintenance. The building opened 3 years ago, but the parking garage is from, sorry, I'm going by memory, it's old. It's 1986 or something like that.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. I'm just curious what work was done at the time to bring it up for the preparation of OTCC.
Fair enough. There was some work that was done, but then there was other work that was deferred or planned to be done later. And now is the later time to get to that stuff.
To deal with salt, corrosion, protection, all that.
Actually, that's exactly what it is. So it's corrosion, it's some leaking that's coming into the stairwells and stuff like that. So we need caulking to be done. We need some paving to be done to stop the corrosion that is happening on that old structure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And 55, the additional support for councillors. I appreciate what's there. I was just curious in terms of, as Councillor Knoll referred to, the demise of Metroland. If we could see what money we spent in terms of promoting our services through Metroland, and the portion of money, or what can be done if there's a home for some of that money with each ward for increased newsletters or communication or support in that way. I guess a strategy in terms of how are we going to replace that with our residents would be appreciated.
We will do our best to look into over the next short
I realize
time.
the time is short, but we're going to.
But I would also note that in many cases, the advertising fees would have been included in as a cost in the fees that then we recoup from development applications or whatever is like. And so as soon as those fees are no longer required, in essence, we need to take it out of the development fee. So I'm not really confident that there is actually a lot that is left over because it should be drawn out of the fee itself. But
No, understand fully. I was
work.
looking more in terms of promotion or delivery of inserts or whatever for our resident services as opposed to development apps.
Yes, and a lot of the advertising bill is actually as a result of development applications. I would suggest to you that perhaps you might want to consider us doing that full analysis on how alternatively we are going to get notices out. There's lots of things still happening with that to then understand, so what are those options that we may indeed need to fund in other ways, and then what is left over. So what I'm suggesting is perhaps this is something we can look at through the year in 24 and report back in 25 of any options.
Excellent.
That would be another suggestion I would have for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. And Councillor, I happened to ask this exact question a few months back, and I think it was $60,000 to $70,000 a year is what the bill was with the Oakville Beaver from the town of Oakville. Now, where that goes and how that goes is a different question, but that was the number that I got back. So thank you for the question. Councillor McNeese, you're next.
Thank you. Through you, Chair O'Meara. A question, something that was brought up a few meetings ago was that the town is going to take a look at how it engages with the public or does community engagement. Post-pandemic, I think there's more tools out there and different ways of going about it. I just wanted to understand a bit of the scope of that and whether that's in with the 4 staff that Councillor Chisholm was getting some clarification on. Or is it a separate project that, you know, we'll get some consulting expertise on? And if it's something that's not readily available, I'm happy to get a report back at tomorrow's meeting. Yeah, I think it came from the CAO a couple of meetings ago.
Sure, Julie, do you want to try and hit that one?
Through you, Chair O'Meara. So yes, the review of our public engagement policy and procedure is on our work plan for 2024. That is going to be a staff-led project. So looking at, one, updating our policies given some changes, but also really looking at the future of engagement and considering the various tools that are out there that we may or may not want to adopt, and then we will update the policy and likely come back to council for the approval of the update, but also some options for future. So that is on the 2024 work plan. It's not part of the initiatives and business support team. This is something that's done out of the strategy, policy, and communications department.
Okay, is that pretty much the depth of information that's available at this point, or is there something you can provide us that provides more detail, or?
Through you, Chair, we have not scoped out the full work plan yet, but we can certainly include that information in an upcoming CAO update, for example, as we work through it, if that would be of assistance.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And will council have input on sort of the scope, or, you know, or I guess maybe some engagement in how engagement could happen?
Let me take that back. That's a good suggestion. Let me take that back for discussions with the team on how to generate those that input.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shi.
Thank you, Chair O'Meara. My first question is for our transit. Yeah. So we talked about before about all those. Can we provide more information on the bus stop, shelter, all this, have those information to indicate the direction, the routes, some information, right? We discussed this before. So for this 24 budget, have you think about this, put into budget because you have some solutions like a sticker or some temporary solution for that? So I just want to clarify this.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We have not added in a specific cost to such additional items such as the stickers. However, the costs to those aren't exorbitant over what we've already budgeted, say, for our advertising budget. So we can accommodate those costs as part of our 2024 budget.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Yeah, that's information is very important for those riders. Thank you. So my second question is, I recently got several residents' requests. That's for our park. Sorry, that's for our park department. So, is that any consideration about we put some benches on the 6 Mile Creek trail, because this is a long trail, and there's some seniors asking if we can have some benches or chair for them to rest.
Through you, Chair O'Meara. Sorry, Councillor Chia, could you please repeat the question?
I mean, I got some requests from the residents, so if we can, town can consider about to put some chairs, benches, during the 6 Mile Creek trail. So because that trail is very long for those people. Now we got a more and more crowded people to use that trail. So is there any consider about to build some chairs, benches there?
Certainly, we can look at that. We do have a recreational trail accessibility plan that we're rolling out that certainly includes rest stops on the trail. So if there's a particular section, we're looking at the whole trail, which runs from Lake Ontario to Lion Valley Park. So if there's a specific area in particular that you've had concerns about, we can certainly take those offline and look at that for some benches likely now in 2024.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, through you, Chair O'Meara.
I do want to thank staff. You do a lot of hard work, and we throw questions at you, and then I'm really surprised how fast you get all this reports put together. So I do want to say thank you, and I do appreciate the work. I'm seeing this in my first year now. I just have a few questions. One is just about communication, and I sort of feel like I understand this now, being a new counselor, trying to understand the whole budget book, and how we know what's going on in the process. So in terms of, I had a question about the efficiencies, and here you wrote in your report that there's no direct cost reductions, there's improvements, a faster delivery service. My question was, this is more of a communication thing, and I don't want to create more work for the staff, but based on what we've had, because it said the commissioners reviewed the efficiencies in each of their departments, but is there one simple document that we could put together? Because I know that I have sent Jonathan a couple of questions that residents are asking, but something that would provide some clear communication that we could give to our residents as well. If we're saying that we need all these FTEs now, and we require them, is there a way that I could explain to our residents or justify why we need all these new positions because of the efficiencies that our departments were able to provide? I hope that makes sense.
Through you, Mr. Chair, why don't we take that back? The conversation, the questions this year are specific to 2023 efficiencies, but we do have a nice history to date. So let me take that back to see how we can perhaps communicate that message out to our residents more about what the work that we've done and the progress we've made to date and where we hope to go. Would that help?
Yeah, I think it would just be if they came back to us, we get the general questions of why is it increasing 4.28%? How is it comparable to the GTA or to other municipalities, right? So of course we have to come back and ask the staff, but maybe if there's a nice FAQ sort of general that we can provide to our residents about the budget that we could put out, that then we don't have to keep coming back to you as well and trying to get those questions to each individual answer. We kind of see what they're going to ask us. We anticipate it. So I think if we had some of those in terms of communication, it would be easier to communicate with our residents as well.
Okay, I'll take that back.
That would be helpful. Thank you. And then in terms of number 55, the additional support, I think one of the questions was about having a point person. So I feel like staff does an amazing job in individually answering our questions, but I think the question was sort of, would there be a point person for the councillors or for each ward within the mayor's office or the mayor's and councillor's office, based on, I think that was sort of one of the questions in terms of the additional 259,000 that's coming. If at any point we could be provided with a point person within our office.
Well, I think that would probably be a question for the mayor and his budget. So maybe we can follow up with that. And if you want to work with the mayor on what that might be, we can bring that recommendation forward on Thursday. And you can present that and council can pass that as a recommendation along to the mayor.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Sorry,
No,
I just
please.
had one last question, and Councillor Chi kind of reminded me that on transit, just a quick question. I got a question from a resident in terms of if they were requesting an additional bus stop, how would that happen? I had a resident who was asking about bus stop being too far from their home, and so their kids having to walk further if they're not provided buses from the school board. So if they have to walk if they wanted to, is there a way that residents request additional bus stops, or what the process might be for that?
Through you, Chair O'Meara, We do have a minimum bus stop standard guidelines, so we'd have to see the distance between and where the stop is being requested. But the request can come directly into Oakville Transit, and then we will send it off to do the analysis to see if it fits within the guidelines of walking distances during times of service.
And lastly, I just wanted to say that I'm done, thank you. We also support what Councillor Adams said earlier to maybe look into what community grants can be given to the north side, similar to the VIA. Thank you.
Through you, Councillor O'Meara, I did want to note that we have this is in relation to the delegations and to Councillor Adams and the request right here. We are doing a special event strategy in 24. We are looking at the types of events. There is an opportunity for us to look at the MAT funding, municipal accommodation tax, to see how that could be appropriately used. It is one that promotes economic development, which is certainly the direction that the delegates were looking for, and how that could be dealt with throughout the town in terms of special events. So that is something that we would be doing as part of the 24 work. So again, it may be something you want to request us to look at in 24 in the context of that comprehensive special event strategy and funding opportunities separate from the tax base, and bring that back for the 25 budget. So I did want to take the opportunity to suggest that to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, CEO. We can work with some of our council colleagues on that should they wish to bring that forward, which I think is a great idea. All good, Councillor Nana? Okay, perfect. Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
Thank you, through you, Chair O'Meara. So on number 27, so I appreciate that the customer standards require a response by the end of the next business day, and that there are certain elements that take longer. But is there some level of assurance that the increase in headcount, particularly in some of the departments, will reduce that turnaround time of 15 days? Because I may suggest that it's not really 15 days at times. And so will this make some inroads in the responsiveness to some of those more complex concerns that can't be answered in 24 hours, but need to be at least acknowledged in the 24?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, the staff that's requested is to help with the customer inquiries, and as you know, they come in volume, so we do try to acknowledge them within according to the customer service policy, but most of the time that does require investigation, inspections, site visits, and certainly conversations with the homeowners and inquirers to really understand what the questions are. So yes, the staffing would definitely help decrease the response rate on all the variety of inquiries that we get.
Thank you, Commissioner. And while I have you up at the podium, can you just clarify for me on the tree protection and then the additional municipal forestry? I think we call it a forestry inspector or whatever. In the appendix, it talks about they no longer go out to look at if the tree protection is in place, that we're relying on a licensed arborist on these development sites. We're facing a battle on tree canopy and the preservation of some of the most significant tree canopy in Oakville. And I'm deeply concerned that we do not get to the site, and we may have made a service shift that allows for the destruction of trees or the long-term loss of a tree because of how the construction is proceeding. The tree protection is not, adequate. It comes down. There's not observation that it is in place. And while I would love to take the developer and the licensed arborist word, there are enough examples that I am a bit concerned that we are not getting to the site. So will this additional headcount allow us to get to some of these sites where we can protect some of these larger trees which benefit all of Oakville from an air quality perspective, et cetera.
Through me, Chair, and Director Stevens could also help me complement this. The increase of that one additional staff is not going to change our service level. Our current service level is to, first of all, respond to inspection requests for the tree protection zones. We do not proactively, every permit that we issue, we go and double check, whether it's at the beginning, throughout, or at the end. Unfortunately, with the resources and the limited resources we have, even with the one new additional staff, the service level is not changing, which is based on inquiries or complaints, or from which responding to that, we inspect those, and as well as we do final inspections, and at the beginning, when they say they finished doing their tree protection zone, we go out. So there's a begin and the end, when everything is done. When the applicant call for those inspections, we respond to those. We have had issues keeping those up as it is, so the new person is to help with that. And we also get inquiries and complaints as to neighbors seeing others doing things. So we do not have, the current complement, and even with the new staff, does not provide an increased level of service that you're referring to.
Well, I have to say that that's disheartening, because we can plant a whole bunch of trees, but every time we lose some of these big ones because we can't seem to get somebody there before the chainsaws come out. You cannot grow a tree at the pace that we need to grow them to keep our air quality where it should be and needs to be. And I had hoped that this would advance our response time, but thank you for at least answering the question.
CAO, I think you want a piece of this.
I just, we hear you certainly on the tree protection. It is an issue. I'm not going to say an issue. It is a value within the town of Oakville, and we certainly recognize that, all of staff, for that. What I want to add to the discussion is what we have also done, because for our ability to resource this is quite staff extensive. So we have licensed for arborists. And through an audit process, I hope we get a better read on those arborists that would continue to have a license. So not only in terms of the work that we do, but on that end of it, we're also looking at means. I know it doesn't directly address the question you've asked, but I did want to acknowledge that there is two different ways in which we're trying to increase the ability for us to protect the trees.
Well, thank you for that additional information. And I do want to clarify, the manager of forestry is exceptional, and his response time, I can count on day in and day out. And so anything we can do to make sure our canopy is not destroyed and protected, I think it's a good investment. Okay, my number 34, just further on the energy coach. So I was hopeful that it may actually be an individual who sits in on pre-consultations, because that's at the beginning of this planning process, and that may be the opportunity or an opportunity to inspire, new home development to look at their energy plans differently. And I'm not suggesting that's the only solution, but at the very beginning, when you're coming in and you're going to talk about, I'm going to renovate my home or rebuild my home, and you're sitting in front of all this planning stuff, I'm just wondering why an energy element is not part of that discussion. And maybe it is, and it's just not the energy coach.
So I think Director Kaminsky could address that. Is Ralph here? Sorry, Ralph. Okay.
Me again. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. I think what we're going to try to do is get the message out and encourage people to come and visit the building department for conversation. Right now, there is no direct connection pre-permit application for anyone to contact building services. Sometimes an inquiry is made regarding the zoning of the property. We can try to flag it at that time, but I think through council meetings and just general conversations with the public, we get the word out that this is a service that building services will be providing, and encourage people to reach out to us.
Okay, thank you, Director.
If I could just add, you gave me a chance to think about it, Ralph, so thank you. The emphasis here is on the actual building design, and that's where I think it has the most amount of impact, particularly for the residential and that sector. The pre-consultation, it is relying to a great extent on the policies that are within the official plan already, and our requirements to meet those, which are identified through the pre-consultation. So I think as we move forward and revise the official plan with those sustainability components, it will give us a lot more teeth to have that conversation at the pre-consultation and flag the issues that the developer needs to take into consideration very early at the planning stage. So I think that's the emphasis to, I think, get at the question that you're asking.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to 49, and I'm wondering about the wayfinding signage. It's been flagged to me multiple times that the design, listen, the effort was tremendous. The intention is correct, but the actual signage is, the font's pretty darn small. And it's a little late in the process in terms of directing where people can find parking. So I'm not seeing dollars related to wayfinding and changing out those, though we've had conversations, I think, for more than a year about that. And I'm wondering, is the app going to be elevated? And can we change out those signs?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would say we can look at in a future budget at those signs. I would be concerned about changing them now because exactly for the reasons that you've identified. I'm not sure that signs are going to get us where we want to go. I do think it is through apps and through other technologies, which is some of the things we're working on through different pilot projects, is to understand exactly how we can direct people at the earliest possible opportunity. By the time a person that's traveling to one of our business areas gets there, if they're trying to see a sign and find where they're going to go to park, it is helpful, but it's likely not going to direct them. You know, we really want to direct them when they're leaving. So I don't think the sign, we will look at that as part of a larger conversation, but I think the app and technology is where we do want to invest as we go forward.
So can I pin you down that we'll see progress on the app this year?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're continuing to do pilots to understand. I would hate to say that we're going to, I think we are progressing. I would imagine it'll be more of an internal progression this year so that we can have an output in the future.
Okay, thank you. On number 55, I guess several of my council colleagues have commented on this. I'm just questioning support across the board for the councillors, and in particular communication support, because we all, many of us invest in newsletters, et cetera. And so further to Councillor Giddings' comment about, are there dollars from somewhere else that can supplement our ability to cover additional communication? I think that would be helpful. I'm going to go to Appendix B, which talks about climate action, and just ask the direct question. How many climate action staff do we have that are solely focused on climate action?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So across the organization, we have 7 staff that are fully dedicated to climate. We have 2 climate action officers. We have an environmental planner, an environmental engineer, a strategic advisor that's focused on climate, as well as 2 energy solutions staff. In addition to those 7, we have 1,200 other staff where climate has been embedded into their day-to-day work. So we've talked before about the embedded model at the town, where we have the combination of specific function oversight, but also the day-to-day work. And I'm going to give an example of the benefit of that day-to-day work. So we have our rec and culture staff, our great staff in our front lines serving the public in our community centers. They investigated a new way of ice treatment that involved cold water, not hot water. I'm not going, Julie Mitchell can speak much more eloquently to this than I can. But I raise the example because here are frontline staff who are, as part of their normal job, investigating what other improvements can be made, and did a request to take on a new type of ice maintenance machine that is having benefits of lower energy costs. So it serves the function of the service delivery, but there's also the off benefit of environmental improvements as a result of this. So it's a really good example of that embedded role, that in their day-to-day work, they are to consider environmental improvements that could be implemented in their workplace. Another example, again, I'm going to give kudos to our rec and culture and our facilities staff on this, with the updating of over 100 standard operating procedures. The environmental considerations have been embedded in all of those. So 7 dedicated 100% on environment, plus the 1,200 other staff that are working on it. And we do have really good examples of how the organization is benefiting from that.
So this is an ongoing question that we get from the public, and I appreciate the example. In fact, I had noted that the ice resurfacer is electric, so well done. It is those examples that need to be in these appendixes in its entirety so that we can celebrate those successes and understand the progress being made. But I am concerned about community outreach. And I am wondering, and Hart raised the question about, a broader public outreach. And is there going to be a greater effort this year around community outreach to help the public on the journey of climate action?
So we do have regular outreach through our Oakville Ready program. So a fair number of activities and initiatives through that. I can see that's not hitting it though. We also do have our regular communications on to celebrate and work towards environmental actions that staff can take. If you are looking for something new and something more, let me take that back for consideration on what the team can do.
I guess my concern is that I don't want to go into the home retrofit and all of those other pieces. The public, we're doing a lot internally, I understand, and kudos to REC for what they did do. And there are efficiencies within our organization, but it is the leadership role, and whether, I'm not sure if Hart's comment is correct that we are delayed at the region. I had not heard that. But we need a concentrated effort to keep the public engaged with us, not on patting us on the back about what we've done corporately, but how they can be a part of this journey in simple, bite-sized pieces, because we're all living with the consequences of climate change. So yes, if you could take it back to see if there's more we could do, that would be appreciated. I'm going to move to Appendix E. So I just, thank you for the explanation from an HR perspective. I really do feel like it is critical that we recognize the value that needs to be brought around those two headcounts. Retention of great people is just, I don't know, every time I'm in discussions with other towns and cities and the competition to get the best talent, we need to be head and shoulders to keep them. Knowing how expensive it is to live in Oakville, finding a way and a strategy, a clear, defined, measurable strategy to hold on to some of our talent is imperative. And when we're spending an inordinate amount of money recruiting, I would just suggest the balance needs to be revisited. And so I just want to emphasize it because it strikes me that our turnover is up. I'm glad to hear that our retirement peak is maybe coming down, but we are only as good as the talent in which that delivers us reports, and it's at the crux of our ability to make good decisions. So I'm going to just follow that up with this, the questions around support for the actions around inclusivity, equity, inclusivity, all of those action plans. So can you just clarify for me, is the new headcount and strategy policy going to bring an expert in around bringing that initiative, advancing that initiative, or is that headcount more project coordination and advancement?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is regarding one of the 5 new positions in strategy, policy, and communications.
So the idea multi-year plan. And there's 4 headcounts, of which 2 you said are process improvement and 2 are helping corporate services and corporate. So is the skill set bringing us internal talent around supporting equity, inclusion, and diversity?
So the position in the initiatives and business support team, the team of 4 that will promote a number of corporate initiatives, is a generalist position. But one of their roles would be how the multi-year plan is getting implemented in the commissions. So yes.
Thank you for that. I also wanted to just ask on Appendix L. So I appreciate that Parks Rec master plan is going to ultimately get bundled up. But my ask was, there are trends in those surveys and that feedback that is relevant directly to Midtown. And so how can we get those trends related to green space and outdoor so we have real data, real input that helps us with that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we worked closely with the Midtown team to look at sort of the key elements that need to be put in place before we actually get to the trend data and when it would be most relevant. So right now, obviously, we have the guiding principles that are going to be coming forward in December, I believe, for Midtown around the OPA. And also, we have a report that's coming forward in November that's the revised Parks Plan 2031, which incorporates the Bill 23 changes. So the reason why we were not recommending at this moment in time that we share the trends is it will depend on when in the development of Midtown do we actually look at more detailed design with respect to public realm. And at that point, we would take a look at what the trends were at that point in time. I think it would be far more appropriate because one of the things that has become really clear, both through the surveys and also the consultations with their stakeholder groups, is we're hearing back from the public that their tastes are evolving at a more rapid rate than before. For example, we're hearing from them that since COVID, their love affair with the outdoors that was renewed to a very large extent during COVID has actually extended, and they're actually planning on doing more in terms of the outdoors. Also, the type of sports that are becoming more popular are evolving with the diversification of the community as well. So what we wanted to do was look at the timing of when we would share that information. Also, the Parks Rec Library Master Plan is going to be coming forward in Q1 of 24. So you're not going to be seeing that in 25 or 26. So that will be coming up very quickly. Commissioner, did you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. Just to complement that, the current phase we're with the Committee of the Whole under Midtown is to looking at the OPA policies, which the park plan that's coming back to council will take a look at where I'll say the green spaces are. what Commissioner Bell is referring to is the trends related to amenities and the type. So we're not at the point at the OPA stage to look at the amenities. That's much further down as we start looking into, in 2024, the public realm plan, the type of look and feel that we need and the type of amenities. So that's much later. So the current plan for November and December to come to committee of whole is for the official plan policies that is not related to the trends and the amenities, which is much more detailed that we will work with council in the future date.
So thank you for that, Commissioner. What I'd say to you is we have a court case that's coming up, and that court case needs to have ammunition that talks about the importance of healthy communities and green space. And if we have data that shows that our community stands together about the importance of green space, then I suggest at a minimum we should be shared that information.
Through you, Mr. Chair, definitely through the court cases that we have, we will have the appropriate expertise on community, healthy living, complete communities to ensure that we are better supported and be able to defend that particular OLT hearing, and that will be coming through council as well in terms of our positions and our issues list as per yesterday's council meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner. And my last question is, two questions are around Appendix O. So we have some streets that came close on the traffic warrants but didn't quite make it. And if we had moved to 40 kilometers, we would have, they certainly would have qualified. And I'm seeing that there's no budgeted dollars to address some of those streets, albeit I recognize we are investing heavily in traffic calming, and having been a champion of that for several years, I'm appreciative. But is there any possibility to get additional dollars to pilot some, traffic calming on those streets?
Through you, Chair O'Meara, we were asked when we presented the report in September to come back with a plan for those streets that are close to meeting the traffic calming threshold, and identify what we would do or what we could do and how we would make those decisions. So that work will be included in our next annual report on the Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program. And until we report back on that, we have not yet included pilot projects or other projects to address those close to the threshold sites.
Thank you, Director. And my final comments are just on Appendix S. Thank you for clarifying the environmental credentials of some of the staff. Can you just confirm what professional development opportunities are provided to them to refresh or stay abreast of the latest changes? Is there a substantive enough professional development budget to advance? Listen, we all know that the university students coming out know a whole lot more than those of us who graduated a long time ago, and it's pretty hard to sometimes stay up to date. So is there sufficient dollars there for them to go and advance their knowledge around environmental impacts and climate action?
Certainly, through Mr. Chair, we do have sufficient training dollars to support staff on the continuing education. Further, we regularly monitor environmental regulations, legislations that changes as that due date changes quite a bit. As we monitor them, then we send staff to listen to the webinars that is through the ministry or through sometimes the different conservation authorities that also provide those type of support to learn about the changes in the rules and the governing legislations. So we not only be on top of mind and in terms of abreast of what's the latest, and we also send them to conferences and certain meetings. And we often get, just in complement to that, we often get industries that approaches us to make presentations to us in terms of the latest technology and the variety of options and solutions that's out there. So yes, staff is well abreast of the latest on environmental engineering and planning and among environmental aspects of things.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. And last we have in front of us here is Councillor Elgar.
Hi, thanks. Through you, Chair O'Meara. A couple of things. I wonder whether staff can just provide us with the detailed job description of the 7 people working on climate action. That's all I'm asking for. I can read through it myself. The big thing is healthy, complete communities. When will we have a real perfect definition of a healthy, complete community with the metrics that go along with it? And I'm thinking of green space per 100 people or 1,000 people, a tree canopy cover, a walkability index within a certain distance. Where is there a location we could actually visit where I could see this is a complete community and what we should be striving for? Is there anybody working specifically on that, and when will it be ready? Because with Midtown, we need that information to present.
Councillor Elgar, that's a big question. And we are working actually on an ongoing basis as we develop the official plan policies. So I think as you bring forward Midtown, it's certainly something we're going to have to look at. That has been a desire of the Committee of the Whole to really understand. So what does completeness look like? Complete Communities has, it's not only the community itself, the small area that we're looking at Midtown, it's how it interrelates with the surrounding area, the rest of the municipality, even other municipalities, because people don't listen to municipal borders when they actually want to go and visit something. So it is an issue that we are looking at as we look at each one of those official plan pieces in terms of delivering the types of services that develops a good, healthy community. The other area that we're working on, so in short, you'll see it as we come forward with Midtown, how we would interpret a complete, healthy community in the design of Midtown. It is another area that we'd be looking at as part of our OP policies more generally, as that section of the plan gets developed, which will come at a later date. So for Midtown, I think you'll see that coming forward at the end of the year, the beginning of January, and probably in late 24, 25 in terms of the OP work.
So my concern is, and people are starting to wake up finally, how what we've been doing, and I'm not saying in Oakville, but what has been happening around the country isn't really working for young kids now. And there's a great article on the weekend in the Toronto Star, another one early this morning, another one coming in about how, you know, we're kind of missing the boat on the young people coming before us. So I really feel we should have some metrics, and there's got to be somewhere where it's been done right. I can't name a place yet, and anything that's new doesn't seem to be working. So even in, you know, I listened to what they're saying in the north part of Oakville, north of Upper Middle, and Dundas specifically, of the issues. And I don't know. I feel like we're letting the people down, and we've got the time. Like, I know what is before us. I know we've got the case coming up with Midtown right in our face, but we need something, and we have to start convincing people that we did not cause parkland to be cut. That was done by the province. We have to get these messages out, and people they're starting to revolt finally in Ontario here, especially with Greenbelt and official plans for regions and everything. So I think it's time we fire up the engines and get the responsibility where what caused the problem, get it resolved. So I look forward to some metrics and walkability and everything. So I thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Elgar, for those comments. Are there any other questions from the committee at all? Well, seeing none, thank you very much for all of your work. I'm wondering if any of you would give me a motion to receive the recommendation. Councillor Haslett-Thiel, any objections? Seeing none, thank you very much for that. There are no confidential discussion items. So just a reminder for our council committee and also for the residents, tomorrow, Wednesday, November 1st, 6:30 p.m., the budget will be hearing delegations as well. So please don't hesitate to come on out and let us know your thoughts and concerns. As well for council colleagues, I know that I've heard a few things that might come up as requests for recommendations to provide to the mayor on November 2nd. So the sooner you can work with staff and just get those into them, they can get the language together and be able to present us a sort of a template to have a discussion on and have some ups or downs on November 2nd to get through. So again, if you can send those along to Jonathan and Nancy and Delabar, that would be fantastic. And with that, thank you to staff for being here again, and to my council colleagues, we are adjourned.